Is it just me who absolutely loves the roguelike genre? That mixture of addictive, replayable gameplay and stunning art design that seems to just always go hand in hand with every roguelike game makes so many of these games stand out amongst the overcrowded sea of just grey, mundane shooters. And oh, we got so many open world games. Can we make another open world game? Jesus fuck. And if you don't believe me, just look at games like Hades, Spelunky, and Spelunky 2, The Binding of Isaac, and Enter the Gungeon. I mean, for just some examples for what I'm referring to. These games play like a dream and look so good that even just their box art slaps harder than a reverse Uno card at the Oscars. For those of you who didn't know, a roguelike game is a subgenre of role-playing games traditionally characterized by a dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels, turn-based gameplay, and I'm just copying from the Wikipedia. The point is, these games offer up a unique gameplay experience that from a game design perspective, perpetuate an exciting, ever-changing journey for the player to take part in, that each and every time they load up a new run, gives them the chance to experience something entirely new and different, not only from their own previous runs, but also from the runs of their friends and other players in general who are experiencing the same game. Now, linearity versus non-linearity in video games is a huge discussion that I am both unwilling and hilariously outclassed in even attempting to digest here. If you're interested in videos discussing such things, I highly recommend Nakey Jakey's videos on both Rockstar's and Naughty Dog's game design. Needless to say, I think that most people would agree that non-linear game design, help me, more often than not, makes for a more player-driven experience that spawns more exploration, innovation, and creativity when experiencing a game. That feeling of endless freedom to approach the game's challenges however you choose to approach them not only makes for a more fun experience full of experimentation and mystery, but also puts all of the emphasis on the player to be the one to discover a path to enjoying the game how they want to enjoy it, rather than being talked down to by the developer, demanding they only experience the game how they want the player to experience it.
One of these.
Even if that goes directly against how you would potentially find enjoyment if left to your own devices to just experience their game. To me, no game genre better represents these better qualities that I've just discussed than the roguelike, and no roguelike game does it better than Risk of Rain 2. There is a Risk of Rain 1, but we're not talking about it, so forget about it! The first thing you may notice upon loading up the game is that you may have accidentally just purchased a PlayStation 2 game. And yes, I did just make a big deal about the art design aspects of roguelikes being a major selling point, but let me cook, bro. I'll take stylized graphics that use their limitations to give the other aspects of the game freedom to get as insane as possible, over games that may look amazing, but run about as well as a chubby Boris Johnson hobbling after those bloody rapscallions. Risk of Rain 2 uses its lower graphical fidelity as a throwback to classic text adventure games of the past, and these are the games that inspired the roguelike genre's non-linear player experience. Games back in the day couldn't have those glossy, orange justicing graphics the kids today enjoy on their iPads whilst mommy and daddy fight in the kitchen. It's just a bunch of text! Sometimes with like janky pictures, I guess? Yet, these games are fondly remembered by generations past as, again, the player is the one with the agency to make active choices that drastically change the experience they will have compared to someone else playing the exact same game, and that's exciting!
Kill Frodo!
Kill Frodo! With one well-placed blow.
Oh my god!
With one well-placed blow, you cleave his skull.
The lack of hardware dedication to the graphics allowed for more complex story and gameplay choices to make the game that much more unique and adventurous.
An adventure! Yeah!
Risk of Rain 2 is exactly the same. The emphasis of the visual style of the game is on the vast array of survivor designs, enemy designs and variation, environments, bosses, items and their uses, and just the sheer number of enemies that can be on screen at any given time without crashing your game. The art design might not be technically impressive, but it more than speaks for itself in terms of creativity and its purpose. You'll come to love the unique look of the game, based on what it represents for the player's experience over if the pores stretch or not.
Look at the pores stretching.
Oh, you did it.
The game does have a story, but like me, you're not going to pay any attention to it. And you don't need to. This game is like a fine wine. You don't really care about the words written on the label. You care about what it feels like to just guzzle it down like a warthog at a watering hole, inducing an aneurysm for that fancy waiter that just spent his whole stupid life caring about a fucking bottle of wine. We're here for the gameplay, folks. The game has you jumping from level to level via teleporters that are unlocked through defeating bosses. Along the way, you'll earn money for enemies killed, allowing you to buy such items as turrets, drones, and chests. And the chests are the main focus. They use an RNG system that spawns various items that give different buffs to the player. Eventually you fight a final boss, and you win the game by escaping on a ship. Sounds kind of simple, right? It's not! Variety is the spice of life, and it pairs well like a Paul Rudd and Sean Evans eating spicy fake chicken in a dark void.
Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought?
The name of the game here is Variety. Or, replayability. Or I guess technically it's Risk of Rain 2, but roguelikes are designed to be replayed over and over and over again to get the most enjoyment out of them. Whether that be through an insane difficulty level or the addictiveness of the game's RNG elements. With Risk of Rain 2, you get the best of both worlds. The chest drops, as previously mentioned, are purely RNG based. You construct what's known as builds based on the combination of items you acquire and how that affects your survivor. No matter how many different runs you play, you'll never have the exact same build twice, adding insane replay value as you constantly gamble on the chances that you'll get a better build than before, or maybe discover a brand new kind of build that completely changes the game for you. Items can affect health, regeneration, damage output, damage taken, attack speeds, player movement, and so much more. It's just so much fun, bro! Just to open as many chests as possible to see what kind of insane build you can make by the end of the game. And in terms of difficulty, the game can be played on an easier mode, but even in just hovering over this, you get bullied by the developers. This game is meant to be played on a medium to high difficulty. The difficulty increases on a timer as the run progresses. The rate of this timer is always being determined by the difficulty selected. The timer, however, is completely unaffected by the player's progress, increasing at a fixed rate. This creates a layer of complexity to differing strategies that the player might choose to adopt when attempting a run. Does the player just rush through the game, making it easier to beat the latest stages in terms of the enemy's health and damage values being lower, but also allowing less time for the player to create stronger builds as they can't spend as much time opening chests and finding other aids like drones and equipment? Or does the player spend as much time as possible fighting as many enemies as possible in each level to earn much more money, allowing them to craft monster builds that can give the player insane buffs going forwards? And that better equips them to deal with the insane difficulty spikes as the difficulty increases. And in my opinion, making the game just way more fun. It's game design choices like these that made Risk of Rain 2 stand tall above all the other roguelikes. This balance of RNG addictiveness, player freedom, and challenging difficulty. Instead of just setting a fixed difficulty that eventually bores the player as the game becomes stale and predictable, no matter how experienced you are, the constant ever-changing difficulty, the excitement of crafting these unique builds, and the freedom of the player to dictate how they respond to all of it makes the game so unpredictable and exciting every time you delve into a new run. I can't believe a notification came through. That was the best goddamn take. I'm keeping it. I've been talking so much about the survivors in this game, but what does it actually feel like to play as one of these many survivors? Well, it all depends on who you choose to play as. Every survivor plays differently from the other, giving the player room to experiment with the many different ways that they can play the game, and eventually they can find the one survivor that really complements their playstyle. We have what I am right now recording this, for y'all that like shooting guns and sliding around, Warhammer 40k Legolas for the League players to spam their ultimates, my favourite character that shotguns and it's high noons, everybody, and he can also turn invisible for some reason, Wally with a nail gun, it's literally this game's version of the TF2 engineer, I have no joke for this.
Ooh, an engineer nest. Let's torture him.
A hovering homie that has unique elemental attacks that are a blast to use, Jin Sakai. I mean, he does tiny damage, but he's so agile that you can just dart around the map, chipping away at all of the enemies. I didn't unlock this one. Sorry, lads. Spider-Man and Ripley, and they've had a baby, and his movement is just so much fun with grappling hooks and charge-up fists that send you absolutely flying. Redacted! And finally, Captain Holt.
But if you're here, who's guarding Hades?
He calls in ODSD strikes, and I don't really know, because I don't really enjoy playing him, so I barely played him, okay? The variety on display here, with only just a few characters, is absolutely mind-blowing. And each and every survivor's drastically different mechanics are so well polished and balanced, I made this picture of a mirror on a tightrope. Unlike the survivors, the enemies of the game are all varied and unique as well, except these guys are turned up to 11. I can't run down every enemy in the game because this video would end up being longer than a Minecraft YouTuber's list of accusations.
I mean, who does that? Have you ever stolen anyone's children? Huh? Have you?
Enemies vary from generic lower ranking bugs or basic creature-like designs that use attacks, very indicative of their designs, but very quickly you'll be bombarded with hundreds of different enemies, all attacking in unique ways that all require different strategies to beat them that, if practiced enough, you can flow together in a satisfying way based on both your survivors' attacks and builds that you create. Enemies are a joy to fight in this game. That feeling of just being overwhelmed by an onslaught of individually challenging enemies, all combining together to make you either run for your life or cue up that goddamn Doom soundtrack and scream your head off as you rip and tear until it is done. Bosses and mini-bosses especially are extremely diverse and tower over you like leviathans of death. Their challenging nature makes it all the more satisfying to take them down and reap those rewards. This game is just so much fun, people! Why are you still watching this? Just go play the game! Oh, but before you go, did I mention that this game has multiplayer? Huh? Did I also mention how it actually works? There's no lag, no imbalance, no reason not to just jump on with your friends and share in this amazing experience together. That's actually how I first discovered this game. It kind of spread through my friend group like a parasite, as we one by one succumbed to the sickness and then began spreading it round to as many others as possible. But in a good way, I swear. The game perfectly adjusts both the amount of chests and enemies spawned per amount of players in any given run. It encourages all kinds of players to embark on a multiplayer journey. Both the seriously dedicated players who want to perfectly distribute each kind of item dropped from the chests to ensure each survivor is best optimized to complement one another and beat the final boss in spectacular fashion, and also those goofy players who want to steal all of the chests from one another and royally screw each other over, caring more about just having a laugh and a good time.
A creamy young man. Is that what you put on your CV?
Risk of Rain 2 offers so much to the player, like immersive and addictive game design, unique stylization, non-linear experimentation, variety on a scale other games could only dream of, both from a character selection and enemy variation standpoint, and the option to either go solo or share the love with your friends. And this all comes for so little. The game on Steam is only £19.99 right now. That's not how you say prices, with sales and cheaper options also available if you look around. And its system requirements are so low, even the computers they shackle you with back in school that run on ground up nail clippings and liquidized Pritt stick can probably run it. You literally have no excuse not to be giving this game a try. Risk of Rain 2 is so much fun and so accessible that it's not only a game worth playing, it is a game you should be playing. Go play it.